entities, it supports a global economy that is more interconnected than ever. IFAC consequently increased its focus on SMEs and SMPs during the last 3 or 4 years. Standard setting in the public sector, in the SME sector, really has to start, as said before, from the small level, building it upwards. So, when we are developing standard, it's essential that the perspectives and needs of SMPs and SMPs are appropriately considered, and where appropriate differential requirements established, for example, the development of IFRS for SMEs, it reflects these considerations. We often hear that SMEs are struggling to cost-effectively meet regulatory requirements, how red tape impedes their ability to innovate and grow. IFAC's SMP's committee's quick poll, which results were released by IFAC in October, cited burden of regulation as the greatest issue currently impacting SMEs and also SMPs. We are concerned about burden of regulation on SMEs and SMPs, especially in time of economic uncertainty. Our global poll indicates primary concerns for SMPs and SMEs. It's the pace of change more than the volume, etc., and regulation standard that is the main source of concern. Regulation also yields benefits. It helps markets function more fairly and efficiently, but the burden needs to be proportional to benefits. Simplification for SMEs, yes, but not oversimplification. We need to carefully consider what type of regulation is creating most burden, need to examine this closely and focus where one can cut with minimal loss of benefit. International finance corporations doing business rank countries according to ease of doing business, using an indicator based on regulations spanning the life cycle of a business, from starting out, protecting investors, through to cross-border trade and resolving insolvency. Higher scores are given for investor protections, such as stricter disclosure requirements in related party transactions and efficient regulatory processes. We need to be very conscious of impairing the ability of SMEs to lead the global economy out of recession. Let's consider then recent developments, particularly in Europe, in the auditing and financial reporting areas, and how this may impact SMEs and SMPs. The EC released new audit policy proposal last week, which signals an intent to adopt ISAs for public interest entities audits. It's not completely clear what approach is recommended for non-PIEs audits, but we noted the proposal also allows for a proportionate application of the standards in the case of small and medium-sized companies. IFAC believes that ISAs are designated for audits of entities of all sizes, and their design enables them to be applied in a manner proportionate with the size and complexity of an entity. We would encourage the EC and member states to be mindful that creating differential auditing standards is not necessary and not in the public interest. The IAASB is also charged with doing impact analysis, cost-benefits analysis on the ISAs. This is an area where it will be very, very important to have SME, SMP input. We must assess in an objective way whether ISAs are cost-effective across the full spectrum of the areas where they are supposed to be implemented. We also should note that we are working on alternative assurance services standards. IFAC does not yet have a formal position on SME reporting in respect to matters such as audit thresholds, tiers of reporting, and forms of assurance, deferring such to local jurisdictions. However, it is of the view that there should be convergence on principles and avoidance of duplication of efforts by using established high-quality standards where they are able and as determined by jurisdictions to be appropriate. We have closely monitored the IFRS for SMEs and are generally pleased with the outcome. ISB followed proper due process, and standards is much simpler than the full IFRS. IFAC's statement on membership obligation number 7, dealing with IFRS, coming out for public exposure in a revised version in a few days, will encourage IFAC members to consider the use of IFRS for SMEs for non-public entities. As with all standards, implementation is critical. But we also note the lingering concern over applicability of IFRS for SMEs, especially to micro-entities, and are asking about this in our forthcoming Global Leadership Survey. And while simplification efforts are an important aspect of regulatory reform, we encourage policymakers to bear in mind that there are wider social and business benefits of SME financial reporting: transparency, accountability, reduced corruptions, fraud, bribery, financial discipline and management, raising credit, proper records, etc. So again, simplification, yes, but not oversimplification if we're going to fulfill these visions and ambitions. Another emerging area of interest is the work of the International Integrated Reporting Committee. The work of this group should be of particular interest to SMEs in creating sustainable business. And SMEs should encourage and assist SMEs in implementing integrated reporting practices which should assist them to meet and exceed business goals. There may be 50 or 60 pilot companies in the integrated reporting projects that are mainly large companies, but that should not be taking that integrated reporting is just an issue of interest for the big public interest entities. Absolutely not. It may be even easier in medium-sized enterprises to go in the forefront. Well, these issues will be examined in more detail through this conference programs, which starts with audit. I'm happy to hear that, see that, but then goes on to the SME finance in accounting and tax schemes. But maybe audit would have come at the end because a number of the other items actually are the basis for what we are auditing. But nevertheless, this committee, now under the leadership of Giancarlo Attolini, provides